The idea, insight, or secret you need for massive impact is just moments away. It's time to claim your career crown. The podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs share the keys to the kingdom to help you open the vault to your greater success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and today I'm joined by our special guest, Simone Fortier. Now, I hope I got that right because I know it rhymes with Cartier. So today we're going to be talking about confidence boosts, how to overcome self-sabotage in your career. And this is so important because all of us have these little gremlins that in some way hold us back. And it's very important that you tackle these so that you can just live life to your best, right? And if you get a ton of value from this episode, I'd love to invite you to subscribe and to give us a 5-star review because it costs nothing to subscribe. Now, let me tell you about Simone because I'm so excited to have her here today. She's a best-selling author, a renowned teacher, a medical medium, quantum success coach, and an ADHD consultant and visionary with 30 years of experience. Wow. She's the best-selling author, as I mentioned, of the book Rise Up, co-authored with Lisa Nichols. Now, Simone's expertise, I had to tell you, it spans this huge reach. All right, so bear with me. Clinical trials, case studies on brain nutrition, innovative healing programs, transformative therapy, and all of this has significantly impacted the field of healing and personal transformation. Founding the Fascia Training Institute, Simone has revolutionized treatments in brain nutrition and pain management, providing hope and relief for those suffering from neurological distress and chronic pain. Her intuitive therapy sessions, backed by science, target the root causes of suffering, facilitating recovery and relief, which is amazing. Now, Simone, I am thrilled to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lynn. I'm excited to really just, support your audience because really the content that you're sharing out there is giving so much value to women who are in business and who are exceptional.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Now, when you go through that bio of yours, not only are you, everyone is probably going, whoa, I want to get sort of into some backstory. What started you on this journey? What really inspired you to follow this path?
Yeah, well, I think looking back at what really inspired me is I have ADHD. It is a superpower in the sense, for me, I used it that I went to school year round. I always wanted to learn, but it also prevented me from doing certain things. But going on, so I took course after course. I just love to learn. And what happened during that time, because of the ADHD, I ended up having probably over 50 concussions as a child because I loved extreme sport and all that sort of thing. And then over 6 major head injuries as an adult. And I was drowning in my own life. Although I was producing at work, I was teaching, but my whole private life was getting smaller and smaller. And I didn't realize why until I had an epiphany one day that it was actually, as concussion became more popular, I had a mild traumatic brain injury. So the mild traumatic brain injury, which is concussion, actually concussion lasts 72 hours, but it's quite popular in people use it concussion. But what it is having persistent symptoms of concussion I had for really over 2 decades. So it started off, I was losing my hearing. I didn't really realize that I was losing my hearing until one day I woke up and I was completely deaf. And I was deaf for 2 years. I had a lot of neurological problems. I didn't know right from left, and I didn't have the opportunity to actually speak well. I would say, and this is anatomy terms, this was my occiput, and it's actually the frontal bone. So what was coming out of my mouth wasn't matching what my brain was doing. And what I also discovered really that was the most impactful, and this is the passion behind it, is that ADHD people, a large percentage, have suicidal ideation.
Oh.
And I had suicidal ideation my entire life. And what that means is, oh, I wonder who would come to my funeral.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a deep faith in God. So I'd pray to God every day to take my life. Although on the outside, my life looked really super awesome. I was achieving a lot, but inside I was really struggling. And so after the 6 head injuries, neurologic problems, deafness, I wanted to write a book. And all through during this, because ADHD people are high performers, they still want to achieve stuff. So my whole methodology, and this leads into women in business and also to high achieving women. So my process for writing was on Sunday. I had one day. So I went and worked out for 3 hours, cleaned my house for 2 hours, cleaned my desk. And then by that time, Sunday was over. So that was my process for years and years. So I reached out to a few of my medical colleagues and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but I need to get this book done. And so they sent me on a journey. Each one had a piece, a solution, but no one had the solution for brains like mine. And through that, through a lot of beta testing on myself and others, I created a program that, one, prevents suicide, which is my passion project, the underlying cause of all this, and sharing that I haven't had suicidal ideation in 8 years.
Oh, that's great.
And I had it every day my entire life. So knowing that there's a solution to that is really what moves me forward. I got my brain back even better. I de-aged my brain and I simply started getting things done. So I created a nutrition program, also a manual treatment that I teach healthcare practitioners that actually creates space in the brain. So the passion is really for those that are like me. And what I discovered along the journey is that 100% of entrepreneurs have ADHD. And ADHD is a superpower, but when it's not entirely supported internally from the brain, getting the simple nutrition into it, people can't get things done. And they self-sabotage, which I was certainly an expert in. And now I've moved through that so I can support other people.
Wow. Yeah, that is quite quite the tale. And I certainly know how serious the suicide ideation is. So I'm cheers for that. So as we dive into this specifically, how can people, especially women and entrepreneurs with ADHD, a superpower and a shadow power, right, identify and eliminate those self-sabotaging behaviors?
So first is really, the brain does really funny things. It kind of camouflages really what our challenges are. And that can present in, and so first, the number one thing is identify what is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So some people think it's actually being destructive or it's a physical thing.
Yeah.
It's actually words a lot of the time that we tell ourselves. So the self-sabotage is, for example, somebody offers, let's say you had a really amazing coaching program or a product and you're sharing it with somebody. The first words out of their mouth is, oh, I can't afford that. That is a form of self-sabotage. It's more than just mindset. It's actually something that's ingrained. And what I discovered is that a simple nutrient determines whether you think that or not. That is the power of nutrition. And so with that, that's a thought there. So that's a simple thing. Oh, I can't afford it. Not looking at how can I get resources, or is this a great opportunity? How can I find a solution to get there? So that is self-sabotage. Also, too, a really big one with entrepreneurs and women in general is multitasking. Multitasking is a form of self-sabotage.
Yeah.
It also is scientifically proven that only 2% of the world can multitask efficiently. ADHD people love to think they can do it, which is interesting. So in the studies, what it showed, and even for women, even women with kids, when they're multitasking, they're simply not entirely present. So they may miss important things out of that. And the 2% that are trained to multitask are those in the Army. pilots, the Navy SEALs, all that sort of thing. And they're actually trained to do that. And moms are kind of trained. They're trained with a lot of stuff going on. They have to manage a lot. But what actually happens is they miss certain conversation or words. And those words actually can change the entire meaning of something. And so with ADHD, this is a self-sabotage too, is thinking that they know what the person's going to say before they say it. And yes, I've been guilty of that a million times because I'm so excited. Oh, I can help that person, or and what it's doing is really thinking that it's going in a certain direction, but it's not. And then it takes away the opportunity for that person to actually finish what they were going to say, and it might go on a different tangent. So that is a form of self-sabotage. And also too, the one that is really seen a lot is the overwhelm, procrastination, and perfectionism. So perfectionism actually is procrastination. So trying to get things perfect when it never will be, that somebody who designed that program that you're creating, all of a sudden they've already launched it. Imperfectly, it's already launched. So that self-sabotages success. So it shows up in a lot of different ways, but it starts with really what we tell ourselves. And this is also a big one that I saw personally. And you see it in really super popular kids, or people that are leading athletes, or women that are successful and overwhelmed. They can also become a bit judgmental. Like, oh, that kid's not cool, or, oh, that's not cool to wear that. That's not cool to do that. And that is a form of self-sabotage, because those are the ones that don't stand up and dance and raise their hands and be all excited because it's not cool to do that. It prevents their success sometimes. Yeah. And that judgmentalness is actually fear. Yeah. Fear of the unknown, fear of change. And that goes really into deep dive into their brain. So it shows up in all sorts of really funny ways. But what I've found is that what is the most challenging for people, they will not do. And doing the research on the brain doesn't like change. So the brain would rather stay stuck, and even in an abusive situation, than change and move. So when that brain actually gets the right resources, it then has the ability to make a choice. And that choice gives us freedom. So it's hugely impactful, that getting really the right nutrition in to the brain. And what I discovered is that ADHD people, 100% of entrepreneurs, are born deficient in 7 nutrients. Those nutrients dictate our personality, our behavior, our thoughts, and really how to even get things done.
Oh, yeah, I've got to know about the nutrients. I mean, I've been all the way through this. It's been really fascinating, but I've been going, nutrients. Okay, what is it? What's the one missing one? And now you said 7.
Yes, there's 7. So from this, so I can tell people generally, which I will do, but I actually created an online test that shows exactly precisely what the brain needs for food.
Okay.
So each question is directly linked to what's called a neurotransmitter. Those neurotransmitters determine our personality, our behavior, our hunger, our thoughts, all that sort of thing. So I've chose 4, and it determines really if the brain needs that and exactly how much. But going in, and so the test is precise. I like precision. So that's another side. So if people are interested in that, they can always reach out. But in general, the 3 things that really move the needle, which sounds so simple because nutrition is simple, is ADHD people are born deficient in vitamin Bs.
Okay.
So vitamin B12. So a lot of times they'll have like cold hands, cold feet. And that is also too, it also creates some nervousness and anxiety. So the Bs calm down our nervous system. And so that we're born deficient in iron and zinc. Iron is really important for stress regulation, hair growth, nail growth, that sort of thing, super important. Iron is also closely related to the Bs.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is our energy, also to our motivation. And so when people are deficient in iron, they'll usually crave salt, which is interesting. So one of the major ones, and they've done a lot of research on, is the omegas.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much controversy going, do supplements work? Do they not work? And in my program, it's interesting. When people do my program, there's instant change in 1 to 2 days. Their anxiety goes down, their sleep improves. So I'm saying, well, I think it might work. And so there's difference. I'm just going to go into that. So there's vitamins are compressed. Oftentimes they have coloring and preservatives. And supplements, actually, a lot of the times it's food in a pill. So food in a pill is really delivering that directly into the body. And I'm going to say, if you're born deficient in 7 nutrients, you can't eat enough to get that into your brain, because really your body is using a lot of that already. And so then your brain is not getting enough to actually manage anxiety, sleep, procrastination, and overwhelm, all those sorts of things. So we really want to get that amount into the body. So if you're born deficient, what happens with ADHD, and as a parent, you might have seen this if you have an ADHD child, that the symptoms start presenting at 8 to 10. So that's the hyperactivity. That is the defiance, distrust. Also, too, a lot of extreme sort of sport or activity. They need a lot of movement. And also, too, some of those kids can appear lazy. And so that laziness is a different type of ADHD and a different neurotransmitter that they're deficient in. So that's really coming from the dopamine, whereas the energy center, and accessing is called the executive functioning in your brain. So that's going, should I do that or not? And your brain goes, no, don't do that. And so with nutrition, that's important. So one of the most important ones is omegas. So fish oils are hugely important for hyperactivity. And also, too, if you look at the physical side, inflammation, joint pain, it metabolizes bad fat, so it keeps you leaner. But really, at the age of 8 to 10, if they don't have enough fish or omegas, then their behavior starts to change. And they'll see that in the hyperactivity. And nowadays, because of nutrition has changed, it's presenting earlier. So I have someone as young as 5 years old on my program.
Wow.
Who was, both his parents are on the spectrum. And so he has autistic ADHD, more autistic. He never liked to be hugged ever and would never go to bed. And for all the parents out there, moms, he wouldn't go to bed before 11. And that's really tough, especially if you're studying or you're doing work at night. And because it's a ball of energy, it's not just a child watching TV. It's like a very, very needy inactivity child. So he never liked to be touched. And he was on my program for 2 weeks. I know. And he asked his parents to hug him.
Oh.
I know. And it was unbelievable. And then also the one that they are like so grateful for on top of that is that he goes to bed now at 7 on his own. Oh. So his brain is calmed down so that it can naturally transition, because it's also the FOMO, which happens with ADHD. And also most people in general, fear of missing out. They don't want to miss out. They don't want to go to bed before everyone else. And that is really typical of an ADHD child who is a rock star. So seeing those things, how important it is, it changes people's relationships, their connections, how they feel. And the parents were so grateful for that. And so is he, a super cute little kid. So omegas changed a lot. Very important. People dismiss that. But again, we're not getting enough out of the food we eat. So if you were eating, let's say, salmon or fish, you actually also too have to eat the skin. And most people don't like the skin. And that's where most the good fats live.
Yeah, I do not eat my salmon skin or like the halibut skin. No, I don't. Any kind of the, whatever it is, trout, doesn't matter. Well, that's fascinating. I mean, I loved how you walked through some of the process and how all of this comes about. And I think, sort of pivoting back to the self-sabotage, I'd really like to hear about some of the behavior behind self-sabotage and why it's typically such a blind spot. I mean, I can definitely see, you know, being a recovering perfectionist myself, um, now I'm much more, it's like, okay, the first is the worst and just do it. What's the worst that can happen? I've always gone through that scenario of, what's the worst that can happen? And it's like, okay, and how would I deal with that? If I go live like we are right now and it's a disaster, well, I can go onto LinkedIn and I can delete it. I can
That's
delete the
right.
post. So, but for other people, when they don't recognize that they're doing this. And I'm going to give one other thing that I know that I am very mindful of, and that is the words that I use. Because if I say something like, well, I just can't take this anymore, well, that's literally putting it out like everything. So instead, it's like, I can't take, for me personally, listening to the news. It's just right now, it's like with everything else, it's like, so I'm more mindful about the words that I use. This is not something I want to add to my burden of listening to the news right now. And now some people may think, okay, well, that's a head in the sand type of thing. But as I'm running my business during the work week, I can catch up on things in the weekend. And if something huge happens, I will hear about it, right? But by being specific in the words that I use, now I'm really clarifying what is it that I can't take any more of.
You know,
Not
that
everything, but just
that
this one
is
thing.
yeah, an amazing strategy. And so you're what that's doing too. So finding words, information coming in, whatever we feed our brain is extremely important. Either it has a vibration. So every word has a vibration, how it's said, but also the word in and of itself has its own vibration. And when that comes in, it changes really. Is your body going, yeah, that's super awesome, I feel good? Is it really filling your bucket, right? Or is it taking away
Yeah.
out of your bucket and depleting you? And so as a strategy, I'm just going to skip to that right now, as a strategy in the morning, that's why the morning routine is so important for all women, but also anyone who's in business, or just focusing at least 10 to 15 minutes on how you set the energy field, the tone, or what you want to attract that day.
Yeah.
And words matter with that. So what you say before you get out of bed, I wonder what miracles are going to happen today. I wonder what opportunities are going to happen today. And if you feed yourself that in the morning, it actually expands your brain to start attracting what you want. But if you go right to the thing you don't like doing, is going down the rabbit hole of social media or checking your emails first thing in the morning because it's like, oh, I got a bill. That's not about filling your bucket. That's about a to-do list, right? That detracts. And those to-do lists take a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And so you too saying and going, I don't want to listen to the news. The news is created to be about probably 5% accurate. And the rest is all really to put you into shock, anger, rage. And when they do that for that period of time, it puts you actually into fight or flight. And then over years, it puts you into being numb. So then that's why they say violence is increasing and all that sort of thing, because people are simply numb from just that information. So what people tell themselves changes their entire day, their entire destiny. So word choice is huge.
Yeah.
So going into the self-sabotage for how it looks, one of them is the bright, shiny object. Always looking for that new thing instead of completing the one thing that moves the needle.
Yeah, or staying with something that is just going to take a little bit of time to get traction. So it's
Yeah.
a winning strategy and it's working, but it's just most things don't happen overnight. And it's staying with it and seeing the progress that's made. It's just, so I've got to jump in with that because it's on everything. I just recently cleaned out my late father's desk, and I had, all my entire dining room was covered with things. But you can look at it as this, oh my gosh. But instead, I looked at one little section at a time. My dining room table after 3 days is already half finished, but it's one step at a time, one area at a time that I could organize, focus, go through what stays, what goes, this type of thing. He had a big desk and a credenza, so it was, and at the time I was going through things in the motion, but then there were other things that I wanted to, okay, now I need to go through these like with more time. And when we look at tasks in a smaller form like that, instead of like the big, but like, okay, I'm going to work on this, take care of this, and go through it, all of a sudden in 3 days, like I can see my dining room table again.
That's a motivator.
And there's not nearly as much thing. And the same thing with what you're talking about in that morning. What I always do is I say, there are so many things I get to do today. Not that I have to do, but that I get to do. And by phrasing it that way, it just changes the entire intent and excitement, and that I have this privilege that I get to do these things today. And so that's another one of my personal tricks. But I know I interrupted you, but it just like really connected with me right there.
But with that too, what you're doing, that's the gratitude. It's beyond a privilege. It's like you're grateful for being able to have a choice to do those things. And I think that gratitude is what you're feeling, which changes again the energy field. And that's expansion energy, right? And so some people are like, well, I have nothing to be grateful for.
Oh.
And it's like what you said just there, though, you have the opportunity to change people's lives. You have the opportunity to, go to work. You have those are all opportunities that some people don't have. So it's like looking for gratitude. Like even when I'm driving, I'm like, thank you. I made the red light. Not red light. It wasn't red. I made the light, And so just in every single thing there is, and I'm like, it doesn't have to all be positive, because again, that's another extreme. It's like both. You want to experience both, because, happiness doesn't come if you don't have sadness.
Yes.
Right. I wouldn't have created all this if I wasn't in really a very, very not decapitated, but a very, very dark place for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's helped me understand other people. And so that's going with the instant success. So people they like, well, I tried it once. And I have an example. I have a lady that I'm working with. She has ADHD. Through my program, this is an amazing story as well. She's been drug-free, alcohol-free for 2 years, just from doing my brain nutrition program. Super amazing. Creating an online product, doing all these things. But she procrastinated because she wanted it to be perfect. So it took her a year to create a product that should have taken a month. But I'm there, I'm supporting her the whole journey. And then it came to the selling of it. So that's a whole other animal, as we know. Are you in the right market? Do you have the right messaging? And what she's offering is unbelievable. But she was in an ocean. She wasn't in the right place. And so she did one webinar. 8 people showed up, which is a success. And nobody bought. So she's like, I want to quit. I'm going to quit. She went into, yes.
No,
yes.
You just got practice. You just got to practice. You made 8 connections. People don't want to buy immediately. I'm sorry. This is my sales consultant speaking, but
it's true. It's true, because they have to know, like, and trust you.
And that's their first experience of being exposed to it. So you have to have a strategy beyond just doing a live, just doing a webinar or masterclass, just doing a speaking event. You have to have the pieces behind it, because people will make a decision later on down the road, and you want to be in the forefront so that they make that decision to hire you.
Absolutely. So, But this is really an epidemic of people.
Yeah.
Because there's fear, because there's also shame, because there's self-esteem, because of the words they tell themselves. And that's why knowing your why. My why is because, one, it saved my life, and I know it will save other people's lives. It's like a hard why. And for her, it's helping people actually get the opportunity to study in America. It's like hugely impactful, changes their life. It changed hers.
Right.
But she wasn't solid in her why. So then when she got failure, which is everybody out there will happen a million times and not just once. And I can honestly say no one learns from success.
Nope, you don't. You can learn, and you have to look at what did we gain from this experience? What did we learn from this? We know what not to do, but there are things that we learned that work really well.
Absolutely.
So it's, you know, it's, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, of course, there's a few people who write their first book is a #1 bestseller, and yet there's millions of authors out there.
But you know what? So this is going to the self-sabotage.
Yeah.
One and done. ADHD people, all or nothing.
Yeah.
You know, some people too, they're like, well, I tried it and that's enough.
Yeah.
You know, and going back to, you know, Think and Grow Rich, really the foundation of business. And the gentleman that, you know, bought the land, the mountain to do the gold mining, and he just dug blindly.
Yeah.
Right. And then gave up because he's like, he found a little bit, but not enough. And he sold it to actually a geological engineer guy who, as soon as he got the land, he did a scan, he found the vein, which was really a foot from where that guy did. So the other guy, one, didn't have the resources, didn't have the ability to delegate to someone else. He thought he had to do it himself.
Right.
That is also part of self-sabotage, is the perfectionism. I have to do it because everyone else can't. I'm the only one. That's a huge one. And what that means in translation is they'll hire people that proves that they have to do it themselves.
Yeah.
So they hire unconsciously or subconsciously people who will self-sabotage also to their business. So that is a huge one. The one and done is it takes a million times. So every person, even that best-selling author, that wasn't overnight.
No.
They had the resources either financially or the resources to connect with people who made it, help them make it viral.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, in the old days, you know, being on Oprah's book club or whatever. I mean, and still today, you know, that has made so many authors be heard. So it's looking for those opportunities. Are you in the right place to do that? And when your brain's unable to even go out because there is that self-sabotage, or I'm not good enough,
right,
which is self-sabotage. And it's like, even if you feel you're not good enough, do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, do it anyway, because then it's out there and then you learn from that experience and then you can even make it better. Yeah. So it's powerful.
Yes, it is. And this has been a really powerful conversation, Simone. So what should listeners do next about getting a much needed confidence boost?
Well, visiting me on Instagram, Simone Fortier, and, you know, DMing me to see how I can support them. I have, you know, a free day challenge coming up. I also have information that I can give to them to support them, ebooks and that sort of thing that can support them. So yeah, just reach out to me on Instagram, Simone Fortier, and we can stay connected there.
All right. Well, Simone, thank you so much for sharing about getting a much needed confidence boost, how to overcome self-sabotage in your career. I mean, we covered a lot of ground here, and I know we could have gone a lot longer. So I really encourage our listeners to connect with Simone, get the access to the resources that she's talked about. Simone, is there anything you wish that I had asked you, or anything last thought you want to leave with the audience?
You know, I think really what you're sharing in your story, Lynn, is no matter what you're feeling, create a system and do it anyway. And What you say to yourself does matter. So I think that was really the biggest impact on how you start your day, keeping those around you or things around you that don't fill your bucket or raise your vibration out of your life.
Yeah.
And really everything starts to change there. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to support your people. And I just really enjoyed connecting with you today.
Well, it's been such a great conversation. And I want to thank you, Simone. And I want to thank you to everyone who tuned in today, because this has been an amazing, informative discussion. And Simone, it's been so powerful for me and enlightening. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? I would love to hear about it. It's important to share the things you love. If you loved this episode, a 5-star review really helps keep the podcast coming to you regularly. Also, if you want to get more sales strategies to grow your business, make sure you subscribe right now. If you want to get results even faster, I invite you to download my sales strategy checklist at petitetoqueen.com/checklist. This has been Lynn Whitbeck, host of Claim Your Career Crown. I'll see you next time